everybody. Welcome back. This is Ron McAdams.
And I'm James Rohling.
And you have joined us today for the triumphant return of 10 Backward. James, what the hell is 10 Backward?
Well, 10 Backward is a review show where we discuss episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, but mainly because we didn't want to watch Encounter at Farpoint again, we decided, hey, how about we watch All Good Things and go backward from there?
Yeah, that makes sense because, we'll watch entire plot lines, and story arcs unfold in reverse order. That won't be confusing.
Not at all.
So, I like this idea. It's I'm a huge, just to bring people back up to speed, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm seriously over 350 pounds. Trek has been kind of the rock of fandom for me for many, many years. And James and I were talking, this has been a couple of years ago now, but we were talking about how, you're like, yeah, I hadn't really seen a lot of those later season episodes.
Yeah,
so,
I hadn't, no. And this is a great way for me to do it.
Yeah, in the most confusing way possible.
Love it. Yeah. I love it.
So
I sat through Memento and had no idea what was happening. So it's going to work so well for me in this concept.
Oh, I know. If you have the DVD, you can watch it in the correct order, and it's just as boring.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah, don't tell Chris Nolan. I'll be off the Christmas card list. But so we were gone for a while, right?
Oh yeah. We got buried in Tribbles. From what you remember that?
Yeah, I accidentally booked passage on the sleeper ship of Khan's crew.
Oh, and then we just couldn't get off of Risa fast enough.
Yeah, and then I think I got stuck in the Delta Quadrant for a while.
I had a battle as Gorn you would not believe.
Oh my gosh. I got cast in DS9 but then left for the last season to go be on Becker.
I fell asleep listening to one of Data's stupid poems about his cat.
I think that I was in an episode of Next Gen, but then when they wanted to bring me on Voyager, they went ahead and cast the same actor, but then changed the character name so they didn't have to offer the screenwriter any money.
I think you win. That's yeah, perfect.
It was a long walk, man, but it's when you
No. You closed it up quite nicely
with the track off.
Totally.
So, well, James, what episode are we talking about today?
Well, this is Bloodlines. Bloodlines is the 22nd episode of the 7th season, and this aired in May of 1994.
Yeah.
This was written by a famous son, Nicholas Sagan.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've heard that he's written billions and billions of screenplays.
If he has, this is one of them.
Yes, this is one of them.
Most definitely. And it was directed by Les Landau.
And I think Les's claim to fame is that there's a season 1 episode, I think it's like Code of Honor or something like that, where he was like the assistant director, and basically the main guy goes nuts and basically nobody could work with him. Because I think that there's Will Wheaton talks about this a little bit in his book, Memories from the Future.
Right.
Because I think in the little snippet in the back, he talks a little bit about him kind of being unreasonable, and so they fired him. Or maybe Gene even fired him. Who can say? It's first season, so Gene would have been around a little bit more. But anyway, do we want to just jump in?
Yeah, let's just get right into it.
All right. So cold open is the Enterprise just trolling around in space. All of a sudden, it's whoa, there's an unmanned probe over here, and it's hailing Captain Picard, which is really strange because he took his name off of the internet, or he put his name on the internet, the intergalactic do not call list.
Yeah.
So it seems strange that he would just get a probe just rolling right up on him. So, but the probe is it's trying to send us some information, so it's we'll just let the little just MacGuffin it up and get whatever the transmission is.
Yeah.
So up on the bridge, a hologram appears, and it's Damon Bach, because who Damon Bach is, right?
Yo, totally. And I watching this, I was like, wait a minute, holographic imaging beam. I know it's the future, but this seems a little implausible even for the Star Trek future.
It's really it's like this seems really late to introduce this concept onto next gen.
Oh, totally.
Because they've had some other things where like super advanced aliens have like, projected their image onto the bridge or something like that. But it's just like this seems really just a squirrely way to like set up some things that happen later or make you question whether these things actually happened. But Damon Bach, for those that don't know, including
He's
anybody,
back in town.
He's back. Bach is back. And he is like a Ferengi daemon, and daemons are members of the Wayans family. Is that how that? No. Daemons are Ferengi starship captains, and he, 6 years ago tried to kill Captain Picard. So his little hologram is like, "Yeah, Picard, I still want revenge on you for murdering my son." Because again, the backstory of this is that before there were Federation Klingon relations, Picard's old ship, the Stargazer, I guess went into Ferengi territory, and they had a little, tiff, and he blew up the other ship because they just started attacking them because he didn't know, so it was self-defense basically. But Bach is like still pissed off that his son died, and he's like, you thought you could hide the fruit of your loom away from me, Picard. And this isn't what he sounds like, but
it's close. It's close.
Yeah, and he's got like this, like his eyes are bugged out and open. He never blinks, and he's got like a huge like grin the whole time he's talking. It's really off-putting, and he's like, "I found your son, Jason Vigo. I've got his address off of the Facebooks, and I'm gonna settle the score." And then it's like it shows Picard where he's just like, "Oh my gosh, I've ejaculated into lots of people. This guy could be anybody's son." And we slam into opening credits.
Right. Part of me was like, really? This is how they're going to spend part of the season, especially closing out so close to the finale. This is what they chose?
I think they bought this script and it had Nick Sagan's name on it, and they were like, maybe it's Emmy time. Maybe we can squeeze out one more daytime Emmy. So yeah. I don't know why they picked it either. It seems it's bad. Go ahead.
So yeah, we get into the first act of the episode, where like they realize that they know that Bach is no longer a daemon. So he's like, Picard tells Riker, "Hey, get your ass on the horn. You need to go call the Ferengi government and ask him what the hell's going on. Why is Bach a daemon again?" Mm-hmm. And during that time, Data is looking into who this Jason Vigo is and where he can be found. Picard eventually just starts saying, "Hey, well, yes, this is this kid. I was romantically interested in his mom. We hung out for like 2 weeks or whatever." Part of this was interesting because the exposition was so weirdly displayed by Picard when he was talking to, because he goes and talks to Dr. Gates McFadden.
Yes, Dr. Gates McFadden, MD.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there like, "Oh, reminiscing. Oh, I remember her well. It was a blustery July morning, and she had golden hair and I'm like, why didn't you say, "Yeah, we dated"?
Yeah, and not just that, but like to the woman you've had a romantic interest in for like 7 seasons.
Exactly.
Like hey, I'm gonna come down to like where you work, and the will they won't they workplace, and tell you about like my old girlfriend that I actually.
It was just weird because it was like, obviously it was like a 2-week fling. It wasn't like a lasting relationship. Otherwise, Picard is the kind of guy that would be like, "Oh, I really care for this woman. I'm going to try to find out what's going on." But he's just like, "Oh well, 2 weeks is over. I've got to go on my ship. I'll see you later, lady."
Yeah, it was like, they had a little summer romance.
And then he remembers her like, "Oh, her eyes were the deepest blue that I can imagine."
Yeah, he's got to paint a picture as to why he maybe had a kid. The super responsible Picard had a kid that he didn't know about for like 25 years or something like that with some other lady. So
they find like where Jason Vigo's on this, or the mother at least settled on the Kamor 5. So they go to the Kamor system to find out, to do scans on the planet to find out where Jason Vigo could be located. Mm-hmm. And as coincidence theater usually has it, mm-hmm. There's one person that they can't really track well because he's subterranean. Mm-hmm. And just as you know it, the moment they need to beam him aboard is the moment he's about to die from rock climbing in a place he shouldn't be rock climbing.
Yeah, I like the scan stuff too because he's like, basically it's like the biggest invasion of privacy ever, like on a global scale. So they roll up on this planet, and I think is it Riker that's like talking to Data, and he's like, it's like, hey, scan the planet and look for humans, and they're like, yeah, there's like 10 humans, but some of them are over this age and some of them are under this age.
I think it's Data. I think he's talking to Data. Mm-hmm. Data's relaying this back, and Worf is the one who's like, oh, seismic activity.
Yeah, but it's like, these many people have visited Pornhub in the last 10 days, and these people ate at Pizza Hut last night, and it's just like, what an invasion of privacy.
Well, there's 2 women that are 85, and a man who is 24, and we don't know where he is, but we know it's a bad place, so let's get him out of there as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. So they beam him.
They beam him aboard, and so Dr. Crusher is like, okay, we need to figure out what the hell's going on. Let's do a genetics test, and we're going to test, take your sample and put it against Picard's sample. Bada bing, they're related. He's his father.
Oh my gosh, that almost seems like something you'd go to like the first commercial break with. That type of instance.
Oh, that's totally it. That's an act break if you know.
Oh man, because I'm gonna watch some commercials about stovetop stuffing here real fast, and listen to Candice Bergen try to sell me on 10-cent long distance. But I'm coming back because I want to know about Picard and his bastard son. So.
And bastard indeed.
Yes. So it all breaks down to like the captain's quarters, and Picard is in there, and he's like showing Jason Vigo, which again, they say his name like 1,000 times in the episode, so many times. I'm really surprised that like Peter McNichol didn't show up. It's Vigo. It's Vigo. So they're in the quarters, and he's showing him all the knick-knack stuff, and it's funny because something like in that first act, he just kind of seems like, hey, I'm just like, I'm just an honest guy trying to get my kids back. Like he's just kind of a nice guy, and something happened over the commercial break because he just turns into a dick.
He does
because he's like. Picard is showing him all these trinkets from like his archaeological things, and he's like, this right here is the toilet seat from Emperor Xanthor of Zubu 5, and he's like how much you pay for it? And he's like, or how much is it worth? If I put this on eBay, what do you think I could get?
Hold on, let me taste it. Oh, nope, not food.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's something else. He's kind of like. He's like, yeah, it's, I think he overpaid for all this stuff, or he traded something for like some Nerillian brandy. Who knows? But it's, he traded something for it, and he's like, I think you got taken. And it's basically like shitting all over Picard's hobby of all this archaeology stuff. And
Jason does go quick from that whatever I don't care to I hate you, Dad.
Yeah, it's like, he really turns into like a teenager. Like just over the commercial break, but it's basically just like, we're nothing alike, and I ain't gonna grow up to be like you, man. I ain't gonna spend my whole life stinking of starships, Dad. And so
Picard returns with the look of, oh, my son is a waste.
I know, it's like, you hang down there at the quarry with all your friends and your shuttlecrafts, you're gonna have to take care of a family someday. It's not that bad. But so Data is hanging around. He's like, for whatever reason, and this seems like a real breach of protocol, but they take the probe on board. You never see it. They just talk about it. So they've taken the probe on board, and they're analyzing the probe to figure out exactly how it works. Well, what they do is they kind of break down some of these encrypted systems, and it's basically like, oh, we've translated their navigational logs, so we can. We're not supposed to be able to figure out where they're from, but we're trying hard. And so what they do instead is they analyze the hull of the probe, and they're basically like, okay, well this probe went past a quasar, and it went past a black hole, and it passed through this type of nebula, and it went through the drive-through at McDonald's, and it
went and got a double animal style.
Yeah, it's
extra toast on the bun and well done fries.
A girl stood next to it and exposed her breast at Street Machine Nationals. They have all these things. They somehow know where it came from them, because it's like, oh well, here's this area of space that meets all these kind of requirements.
Well, the scanning is so advanced. You know this. I mean, you can get the age of a human on the planet from a scan. So, of course, you can detect trace levels of whatever across the galaxy.
Well, because it passed by a strong magnetic force or something. And who knows? But so anyway, so finally Riker gets his call back from the Ferengi homeworld. And this guy is basically like, Nope. He was in prison until he bought himself out, because it's the Ferengi, so everything's for sale. So he buys himself out, and they're like, I don't really know where he's at, but I heard that he's somewhere around the Dorius cluster, and so what's the information worth to you, copper? And so they're like, oh man, there's like 20 star systems like around that, and he was like, well, good luck, and so beep, he's gone. So, but they immediately like start tearing ass over there to the Zindi Sabu system to try to figure out exactly where Damon Bach could be hanging out. So, while they're en route, Dr. Crusher and Picard kind of talk about the kind of all these like this angsty nonsense that Jason Vigo is going through, and Picard's like, I don't want to force a relationship on him, but I really want to like help him if it's possible. And he feels kind of, because of this connection with the mom, he kind of feels responsible for the kid to do something about it. So Counselor Troy is on the other side of that and decides to go by Jason's quarters to kind of talk to him. And he
she does.
I know. It's because these are the episodes where she's wearing like a real Starfleet uniform, so we're supposed to take her a little more seriously. Like, she's not just showing up and like, hey, what do you think of my jumper? But basically he's like, I don't want to talk about mommy daddy stuff, but I'd like to do some mommy daddy stuff. And she's like, no, if you don't want to talk to me like a professional, then I'm going to go ahead and take off. So he's like flirting with her, and she goes ahead and said, you can stop by my office anytime. And so Enterprise drops out of warp, and then it's nighttime or something, so some time has passed, and like the Enterprise is getting really close to where they're going, and Picard is sitting there like Zian, and all of a sudden he hears Damon Bach's voice, and he kind of sits up in bed, and he doesn't really can believe like his eyes, because there's Damon Bach like standing right there at the foot of his bed, and he's like, Ebenezer, but he's like, I'm gonna kill your son, Picard. There ain't nothing you can do about it. And Picard like reaches over, rather than like jump up out of bed and like drop kick him, he reaches over and calls for the guy who constantly get his ass beat on the Enterprise. He's like, security to captain's quarters, and and just like a split second later, Damon Bach is gone. He just like, beamed out, or it was another hologram, or they don't make it really clear.
And then right after that, we got to see a commercial for probably a Happy Meal or two.
Probably.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Happy Meal, Carnival Cruise Lines, something like that.
Oh, Carnival Cruise Lines. Can you imagine the E. coli you get from just hanging out in that line?
That's true.
It's pretty terrible. But we move on to where LaForge and Worf are in the quarters, and they can't find anything as far as like any trace of Damon Bach, and so they really don't have any idea if it's a hologram or if it's actually Damon Bach like in the room. Mm-hmm. So right after that, Data approaches Picard and says, "Hey, I've been looking through the police scanners, little police records, and your boy, he needs some parenting because he's a criminal. Your son is wasting his life, Picard, or at least that's what Picard thinks of him, internally. Data has no idea how to say things like that. In fact, after the conversation, as Picard walks away, Data has this confused look on his face, like, "Oh, this is how parents act. Okay, I guess I can be kind of a dickbag to my parent, my kid when I have one."
Now I need to go back in time and be like a total jerk to Lol.
So.
But it's funny because his big crimes are like trespassing, and it's for all of his rock climbing stuff. Because I guess the people on that home planet have a real hard on for people not climbing on rocks. It's like their entire planet is like Footloose, but for rock climbing.
That's dancing.
Yeah, everybody climb, rock loose.
You're right, though. It makes no sense that the rock climbing would be illegal. They don't really explain it either in any of the the discussions they have about it. It's kind of weird that they're like, hey, you're on a planet where nobody has anything. We're all dirt farmers.
Yeah.
But don't go near those rocks.
Well, we don't see what the native aliens of the planet look like. They could be rock aliens. So this guy could be like a perv. He's like, "That's right, officer. He was climbing all over my wife's breasts."
Oh, man. So we go into a scene where they're in 10 forward, not to be confused with 10 backward.
Yeah.
Where Jason is being watched by guards because of the ever-present threat of Damon Bach being able to just show up wherever he is. And Picard tries to show up and be like, "Hey, son, let's take interest in what you like. Let's go do some rock climbing on the holodeck." And of course, Jason's like, again, shows up with the "Fuck you, Dad. You're not my dad, man.
You're just my stepdad, man." But he's like, while those guys are watching him in 10-4, he has a little trimmer. It's a little more, a little tell, a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
His hand's shaking a little bit.
And then another probe shows up, which is kind of like, okay, let's see what's going on here.
There must have been a sale. He bought a whole stack of them at Costco.
Whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then once it shows up, it pretty much just explodes, and there's no damage on the ship, thank God.
Yeah.
But the Data sees a message in the Ferengi code, and it says, "My revenge is at hand."
I know, but it's really weird because it's the Ferengi, it's a light code, and it flashes.
Yeah, it was. I didn't understand that. There's so much about the Ferengi we don't know, and then the little things that do pop up in the episodes when they try to discuss Ferengi culture, I'm like, they keep making less and less sense as the show goes on.
Their entire culture is based on the practice of flashlight tag.
And money.
Yes, it's...
Flashlight tag and money.
Yep.
So Picard goes back to his ready room, and he, of course, orders his Earl Grey hot, and Damon Bach just is in his chair, just in the flesh, just sitting there. And then they have the battle of the close-up faces.
Yes. And he's sitting there, and it's Bach is sitting there the whole time, and his face is just his rictus is just I'm not blinking, I'm staring at you, Picard, and I've got this huge smile.
He's like, he doesn't blink. It's the weirdest thing ever, and his eyes are just, like you said, just totally bugging out. So pretty much Bach lays it down. "I want payment for my son's life. Whatever. That's it." So then the Lieutenant Rhodes, one of the security officers, calls Dr. Crusher to Jason's quarters, where he is having the seizure of a lifetime. He is just on the floor.
Oh, man. Lieutenant Rhodes? No way.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Rhodes, man. He's my favorite.
He's your favorite?
Oh, no, wait.
character?
Jason. Jason's having the seizure. Okay.
Yeah,
the foreshadowing.
Well,
that's right.
Well, yeah, he calls. Yeah, the guard calls Crusher to Jason's quarters.
Yeah.
Where they find Jason having the seizure.
"Guard, we got a hurt man in here."
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So he's he's having a seizure, right?
Yeah.
Probably because he knows that there's more commercials for Chef Boyardee coming up next.
Oh, thank goodness.
So, but Act 4, we're in sickbay, and Picard. Crusher is examining Jason and finds out that he has Forster-Trent syndrome, which I am sure is named after some friends of the screenwriter.
Most likely.
But it's a rare neurological condition. And basically, it's like this degeneration of your your neurological, your brain and your nerves. And I'm not a doctor. That's up for Gates McFadden to fake.
That's totally true. And Jason's just talk about a bad weekend, man.
I know.
Dad shows up, tells me I'm being hunted, and now they tell me I got this degenerative disease.
It's like, I wish I had never been born out of wedlock. And but she's like, oh yeah, we did this microcellular scan. We're trying to find out, and this is caused by a random mutation in your DNA, which I guess kind of all disease and stuff is. But so Jason leaves, and Picard admits that Crusher was right. And he convinced himself that Jason didn't want to reach out to him because it was, maybe like there was no way for those guys to kind of build a life together. And too much time had passed. But he still wants to be part of his life. And he doesn't care that he's got a criminal record. He just wants to be kind of the best, dad who doesn't look anything like their son that he can be. So Picard goes to the ready room. They're talking to Geordi and Data, and they found out that this the chair that Bach had sat in is giving off, it's resonating this very specific subspace signature. Okay, so they believe that Bach is using a subspace transporter to be able to like zip onto the Enterprise through the shields and stuff like that. So now they're kind of concerned that if Bach can do that, he could very easily beam Jason Vigo off anytime he wanted to. Okay, so I guess this, and it's really squirrely because it's like, they've got this, this guy has just got this technology that defeats, that you can beam onto a ship at warp through shields from thousands of light years away. So I'm guessing that the screenwriter for that first Star Trek movie in the Kelvin universe saw that and was like, hey, we're going to make Scotty come up with that. Which is just the dumbest universe breaking thing that they could possibly come up with.
Right.
So basically, they're going to try to. They kind of theorize that they can do something to have like an anti-transporter beam or something that can kind of keep him on the ship and stop him from being sucked away. So,
yeah, and it's weird that they have this technology that they're talking about, this whole subspace transporter thing, and they even go through the backstory to say, oh well, they were working on this, but then they found it to be too unreliable, so they kind of dumped it. And it's like, well, here's what happens when you put your time and money into learning about technology. You can actually make it work.
Yeah.
And not only that, if he has this ability to do this already, why didn't he just do that from the beginning? Like, I know he's tricking him to get like Jason Vigo on board, but then why not just take him immediately once he's on board?
I know, and this is predicated on the dumbest kind of revenge. It's like, I'm going to take your son away so you feel kind of how I feel. It's like, if you want to get to Picard, which is he wanted to kill him, it seems like he's cooled on his kill Picard plan, because originally it was kill Picard, and now it's like, I'm just going to make Picard feel really bad, because that's maybe my level of skill.
You see this, Picard? I'm going to make you my bitch.
So
you're just going to feel so terrible after I kill your son.
So after Data and Geordi finish up with their techno babble, he heads down to the holodeck to kind of check on Jason. And Jason's doing a little, he was like, hey, I'm going to do some rock climbing on the holodeck, which is what, again, like you had said earlier, that Picard kind of suggested to him as like a bonding activity. So they're in the holodeck and they're kind of climbing around and stuff. And we get to hear more backstory about Jason Vigo's mom, because she came to K-More 5 during the Cardassian War. Because remember, this is right about the same time that we're seeing the Cardassians all the dang time over on DS9, right, which ran concurrently for the 6th and 7th season of Next Gen. And basically about how like she opened up an orphanage and she was trying to help all these little kids. And he was like, we always had like a huge house full of kids. And one day my mom went to get food when things kind of got rough during the war, and some guys killed her and took all the food. And then I've been on my own, and I'm a street tough and things like that. And Picard is kind of like, you've had this tough life, and I wasn't there, but I was estranged from my dad, and can we have some kind of relationship here? And Jason kind of softens up a bit and is like, maybe we could be friendly, like happy fun time dad, like cool uncle. How about, would you settle in cool uncle? And so then while they're sitting there kind of glad handing and slapping each other on the back, Dr. Crusher calls and has some information about Jason. So he heads down there. Picard heads down there. So meanwhile on the bridge, they have detected the same sort of transporter signal that Damon Bach has been using, and all of a sudden, it's right. We're about to get this like big reveal. Like, we got the relationship part of it done. We're going to find out about his medical condition because I'm emotionally invested. They lock onto Jason, and Damon Bach like tries to beam him out, and he's being beamed out, and Picard like runs up like he's going to somehow grab him and stop him from being beamed out. And he's just got like a Shazam look on his face. And then we slam into more commercials.
Yeah, it's like Toy Story trailers, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
You're like, it's a great year for movies in 1994.
Mm-hmm. The boys were back in town.
Exactly.
Or maybe that's the sequel.
Or the prequel.
Ooh, Toy Story. Where they're just all in the store and their packages not moving. That sounds exciting.
Oh, it's so great. So then we get into Act 5, and this is where it really just puts a button on the entire episode. There's another probe that is beamed in, and it sends a message that we have... It's close-up, too. Again, with the close-ups in this episode. It's like, we have Jason Picard, and I'm going to kill him.
Oh, and it's like a weird fisheye lens, too.
Yeah, it's just odd. But Data is able to figure out, hey, this is so many billion kilometers away. Mm-hmm. It would take us like 20-something minutes at Warp 9 just to get there. But Picard is like, hey, how about we just do the same thing Bach does to us and just transport me aboard their ship? And we'll figure it out from there.
Because why not?
Because why risk the captain of a ship every effing time and not send somebody who's actually supposed to be there for that purpose?
Right.
But so they do, and it works. And so he gets over there. He has a phaser in hand, and basically explains, "Hey, I know that's not my son. You kind of screwed with the DNA." And he's there with there's those other Ferengi there too who have, I guess, fallen prey to Damon Bach's like guiles.
Yeah, because
they think he's still a Damon.
Yeah, because it's like, we're here for profit. We're ransoming this kid.
Yeah, they even get into like, they even say something like, "We won't get the money now."
Yeah,
like they get really angry about it.
Yeah,
but basically they it all pretty much just kind of falls apart, and it's not even like that satisfying when you're watching it, because you're like, oh, this is over. It's very what's the word, anticlimactic.
Yeah, it's very anticlimactic, because he gets over there and he's like, I got the drop on you, and he's like I'm gonna kill your son, and it's like I know he's not my son, but he's not like, go ahead and kill him anyway, because that would be at least kind of like, Picard wouldn't say something like that, but still, it's just that would have been exciting at least. So
the other Ferengi are just standing there, and they pretty much figure out like, oh, this guy's screwing us over, so we're gonna hold him here and give him over to the Federation.
Yeah, and so he's gonna go to jail for a while.
Yeah, and Jason's like, I'm gonna just go back home. That's cool. I'm gonna try to live on the straight and narrow. But Picard gives him what is a Gordon ass scratcher?
No, like it's a Gordon Freeman stick. I think those are called crowbars.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's a Gorland prayer stick.
Oh, Gorland prayer stick. I thought it was like a what a pepper mill. You just on your salad.
It looks like somebody took a recorder and just kind of like slapped some paint and some little super sculpty on it and was like, yeah, here's a new here's an alien thing nobody's seen.
Oh yeah, this is from 10,000 years ago.
Yeah,
it's amazing. There's only one left, and Picard has it. But pretty much it's just Jason wants to go home, and Picard is and suggests that if Picard is ever again near the shithole of K-Mor 5, to come say hi, even though they never went down to the planet, and even though they can just beam him aboard.
Yeah.
Like what? It was like a very anticlimactic and weird ending.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if I'm ever in the neighborhood again, I'm just going to randomly beam you up regardless of what you're doing. You're on the toilet using the bathroom. I'm just going to beam you up. You're in the shower. Your cousin's wedding. I'll beam you up.
This is K-More 5? Okay, we're in a bottle episode, so we're not going to go to the planet.
No, it's too expensive to show the, they had the rock, the only thing that was sort of of the planet was the scene where I think you see some seismic, instability, and he's climbing around on the rocks or something, and then they show the exact same rocks in the holodeck. So it's oh man, it's almost like this place I go to all the time.
Almost.
So
but that's Bloodlines.
Ooh, man.
So what did you think?
This
episode.
I did not care for it.
No.
It is really, it's Damon Bach. You would have to remember, and again, they very clumsily. Picard has a couple of lines where he's telling Riker that it's this exposition of, well, he tried to kill me 6 years ago. It's like, no shit, man. I've been here the whole time. We work the same shift every day.
It's not great, and because there's no reasonable payoff. There's no good payoff.
No.
I mean, if he turned out to be his son, you're like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe they do something with that, but it's like, oh, wait, it's all really just not even mistaken identity. It's purposeful deceit into something that wouldn't even matter in the end anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I know this isn't his son, so I'm going to make it seem like it is his son so he can grow close to him, so then he can get, be real sad about it. But I think in the end they would have figured out, oh, wait, that's not really my son anyway.
Yeah. I mean, eventually you would find out. They look nothing alike.
Yeah. So, they even make, they have a nice laugh about male pattern baldness in the in the what is it, the holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. He looks nothing like him.
No.
And there's it just wasn't great. I was really hoping for more payoff at the end. A better ending would have been nice.
Not even the special effects are very good, because there's one thing, and it's the probe is coming in, and the probe is kind of parking there in front of the Enterprise, and then the one time it beams the hologram aboard. Then the exact same footage comes back and blows up, and it's just what? You couldn't. I mean, granted, it's model work, so it was kind of it would have been very expensive to kind of do that again. But it was just just I'll take it as read that this happened. Don't show me the exact same footage. But
right. And why send the second probe to blow up? Just send him the freaking message, or I don't know. Since you have that ability to travel through subspace as a transport as a subspace. Through subspace, just show up and say whatever message you need. Mm-hmm. I think he already knows your revenge is at hand.
Right. I don't know. I don't know what was going through.
I think I got it. I think they wanted to. I think they wanted to give a cue to the audience of the subtle cultural significance of flashes of light for the Ferengi race.
This entire species that has giant ears. Their stuff is based on sound. Of course. That they would use light to communicate.
Yeah.
Maybe their ears are so powerful they can pick up photons. I don't know.
Maybe their ears are their eyes, and their eyes are really their ears.
Whoa.
That's why they never blink.
Oh my God, man! You blew my mind.
Oh my God,
that's crazy.
So, as a rating, what would you give this?
And this is good you bring this up, because a lot of last season on 10 Backward, we did a lot of just oh, this is terrible. Oh, it's terrible. But that doesn't really tell you much. I think that we should have a scaling system, a lot of Leonard Maltin. It's 4 stars. So, which seems odd because it means there's a lot of things that are going to fall one way or the other. I think he's since updated his system. Because that's where you had Laser Blast be exactly as good as Kelly's whatever. What's that movie?
Leonard Maltin loved Laser Blast, which is hilarious.
Yeah, 2.5 stars. Exactly the same rating as Kelly's Heroes. So, it's right. So I would say I would give this episode on a scale of I would say 3 out of 4 Wesleys.
Okay, 3 out of 4?
3 out of 4 Wesleys. With
That's
4 Wesleys being the worst.
Oh. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with 4 out of 4 Wesleys.
Oh my gosh, that is a bold statement.
Just it's not. It was too boring, and the payoff wasn't good enough to give it anything but 4 out of 4.
Will Wheaton just unsubbed this podcast because of you.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I think he was only listening for the Candice Bergen jokes anyway, but
he likes to hear about commercials from 1994.
I mean, who doesn't? So, all right. So that is Bloodlines. What do we have coming up next week?
Next week is Firstborn. And it's about a mysterious family friend and advisor encourages worst son Alexander to become a warrior.
Why have we got more family episodes? You only do family episodes when you got nothing else in the tank.
I'm already just like Alexander.
Yeah, I watched the preview for this too because I'm pretty sure that this is like. Because I cannot remember the young actor who played Alexander, but he actually, contemporary to this podcast, recently passed away.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the child actor that played Alexander Rashenko, whose name, I probably should look this up before I even brought this up, but yeah, he passed away maybe about a month ago. So, but I think that they had chosen, by this point in the series, had chosen a different actor to play Alexander to kind of show us that maybe time had passed a little bit, or maybe it's just something with kind of Klingon sort of. See, I'm saying all this. Maybe I ought to verify that it's true, that it's actually true what I'm saying.
Right.
Not so much about the actor passing away, but about the whole thing with. Oh no, it's the same guy. Oh yeah, sorry. Whoops. But yeah, there is some episode where he comes back and he's a little older. Maybe I'm thinking about DS9 or something like that. Who knows?
And you're talking about the child actor John Stewart.
Yes.
Or Stour.
Stour, yes. Or no, it's Brian Bosnell. Didn't Brian? Is it?
It wasn't Brian Bosnell.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Yeah, 1st of January, 2018. John Stewart. Yeah, the original Alexander Rashenko.
The original just blank face acting as a Klingon kid.
To be fair, I think he was like 6 or something when he was on there. So
True. But this still goes to my point of Star Trek has never been able to do children well.
No, and I think that part of that is just because they had this thing where they had a ship that had families on it, but they didn't. Again, they were like, "Ugh, we got to get these kids out of the way." So,
okay,
yep. But Brian Bonsall, I can't pronounce his name, but yeah, he was on Family Ties and all that type of stuff. So I remember he had a promising kind of career as a child actor, but it's kind of unfortunate what happens, but. Anywho, I guess we will talk about that next week. So,
Firstborn.
So, man, didn't want to make this go down on a down note, but here we are. So,
here we are. We got to make sure we got to close the bar for next week's little epic adventure.
That's right. Until next week. The balcony is closed. See, I just invented that just now. No one else has ever said that. Those exact words.
No one.
Nope, no one. You will not find video evidence of anyone else using that saying anywhere. And if any estates of movie critics want to start a beef, I guess we'll just have to talk about it. So. All right.
Well, we got our phasers ready. So if you got beef, bring it.
So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us here on 10 Backward. Again, I am Ron McAdams.
And I'm James Rohling.
And we'll see you next week.